1. You got it.
We
We
live
live.
with it.
All
Welcome,
right.
welcome, welcome. We are live. Soldiers of Science is back February 19th, 2022. This is real. Do not adjust your dials. That is old timey. Do not adjust your antennas. This is us from the internet, Tony D and the homie OG
Flex, February 19th,
Flex. Look at
2022.
this.
Let's
Look at
run the
us.
intro.
Run it.
Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Yeah, dude. Just vibes all day. I love those vibes, man. It's very epic, very theatrical. I'm down with that.
We're going to swap the
Welcome back.
background.
Yeah, look at that. Man, we're chilling again. Back in the greenery here.
Oaky
Yeah.
forest.
This is beautiful, man. Wow. Look at that. Well, welcome back, everybody, to the Soldiers of Science. This is episode 12 coming at you. Wow. Dose? Dang.
Yeah, it's been 9 months, man.
It's been a while. It's been a while. Wow. 9 months of this. And it's crazy because not a lot has changed. We were talking about this before the show. There's obviously a lot that has changed in a lot of ways, but primarily no. Everything else is the same.
Yeah, we use these banners. For those of you that don't know, we use StreamYard to stream onto YouTube and Twitch. Soldiers of Science YouTube, Soldiers of Science Twitch. Soldiers spelled SOULDIERS. And we have all these banners, and we were looking at the banners right before the show, and it's like, well, yeah, not much has really changed. Like, we still got pandemic stuff going on, chaos with the economy, chaos with different countries. So definitely a lot of new topics to discuss. But yeah, it was funny looking at the 9 months past banners we had.
Oh my goodness, it's wild. I mean, to the topic. I mean, like racial inequality. Like we just heard this terrible news about the cop who's getting like what 18 months or 12 months for killing a kid, and then the black lady who's getting 6 years for fucking registering to vote when she was out on parole accidentally. Like just chaos. She got 6 years added to her sentence. So I mean, like
not much
has
down
changed.
The ladder,
nothing has changed, dude. Nothing has changed. It's just everything is insane. We still got, well, we're coming out of the Omicron wave, but again, a new variant that came out of left field and had everybody shook. Obviously, for a long time, for a while, still, very much valid concern about it. It's not like we're out of the woods, but it's just been a wild ride, man. In a lot of ways, ever since we started this podcast, not a lot has changed in regards to like clarity about an ending to everything.
Yeah, nobody knows.
Nobody knows. Nobody knows. It's just crazy time. So we also saw this, and it was just like, yo, this still applies. This is obviously something that will always apply to everybody. Mental health, you got to check it. You got to be in tune with it. You got to make sure that you're good. You got a good crew, a good support net, even if it's just one other person, man. You got to make sure you got somebody in your corner. And you got to prioritize it, man.
And if you don't, you definitely need to figure out what resources you have available to you and leverage those as much as you can, even if it's like the last thing that you want to do. Even if it's a stranger, like leverage the resources that hopefully are available to you. And if not, hit us up and I will make myself available to you. I don't know.
Likewise. No, seriously, man. Like, because all it takes is one. It takes one good contact, man. You don't need like the whole world. You just need one person in your corner that's going to talk to you real and let you know what that you loved. Really, ultimately, so what we all need is somebody in our corner that we know that loves us, has our back, and has our best interests at heart. So prioritize that always, and that's just something that I think will apply no matter what's going on from us. Like that's kind of part of the vibe that we have as one of the baseline kind of core values of our podcast is that ultimately, man, we want to prioritize people's well-being ultimately above everything else. We may talk shit and complain and lament and question the powers that be and the injustices, but at the end of the day, man, like we all know that we're all trying to do the best that we can, and we got to look out for each other, man.
Yeah, man. That's number
real
one.
Shit. Number one.
Well, you want to drop a little? You want to drop a little something? We can get the vibe going here.
Yeah, we can do that. Let's put.
You want up to you? We can do it later.
Let's do that now, man. Let's drop it down. We gotta put a little background music in here.
Let's get some background music right here.
Yeah,
got you all set up here.
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, I still don't have the turntable set up, guys. I'm sorry, but next show I will do my best to get that set up.
Yeah, it's all good. All good, Flex. Yeah, that was a little skippy action coming from you, but
yeah, I just got a Wi-Fi notification.
Ah, that's what that was. Okay, but you're back. All right. So let's go drop a little rhyme for y'all, man. Welcome back to Soldiers of Science. Here we go. All right. Theme is Jurassic Park. Ayo, the theme is Jurassic, so I'm gonna flip the shit backwards, reverse the sands of time, and build another Sistine Chapel. But you won't see no stained glass, no Eve with the apple, because every inch is made of bone and ancient meteor shrapnel. Oh, yeah. Came with a little whack on that last punchline.
No, that was cool.
I pronunciated, ancient meteor shrapnel, right? See these remnants of epics from eons and eons ago, embedded Earth's crust, root binary code. There are no other words. I look through every thesaurus. The fate of every living thing is a return to the forest. The forest. Yeah. Plant your roots and grow, baby. Yeah. Plant your roots and grow, baby. Yeah. Plant your roots and grow. So, hey, my flow is molasses. You slow as molasses. I'm teaching these classes. You failing at Mathis. That's bad grammar, so good that it cashes. Flip that shit for sats, cause paper money burned to ashes. Paper money burned to ashes. Paper money burned to ashes. Paper money burned to ashes, right? But these bars on inflation got me snake charm and Satan. So good with these words, central banks be sending agents. But shot to 56, bitch, hard money haven. Fuck a cease and desist, I keep my keys in the crypt. Ha! Banking cartels mad because they can't touch the savings. Private keys encoded hieroglyphics to a caveman. Chopper trip to safety for the sovereignty of mankind. Safety in these sands of time, this one time, yeah. All right, that's it for now. Yeah. Just some workshopping for y'all. That's nothing finished or anything like that. Just some fresh rhymes I wrote up. Get the vibe going.
No, there's some clean lines in there. Like I wasn't even kidding when I heard this pre-show. I definitely want to get some of those framed up.
All right, dude. Yes,
there's a couple good ones in there, man.
Yeah, dude. I need to put it with some good production, man. Like this is some royalty-free beats that we got. Courtesy of StreamYard. Yes. What up? One love, baby. Thank you, StreamYard, for the beats.
We definitely need more hip-hop beats. If you guys are listening, we need more hip-hop beats, but yes.
Please, but thank you. It was enough to work with.
There's only one of each genre. There's like a rock beat, a hip-hop beat, a pop beat, and
Yeah.
All right, what do you want to jump into, man? We got a whole bunch of topics.
Yeah, dude, let's just jump off, man. The schmeconomy, man. I'd like to get I would really like to get just like a general, honestly, dude, and I'm gonna put you on the spot. I'd like to get a general breakdown of Flex 101 on where we're at right now with everything, dude, in the economy right now, man. Like globally, the whole global economy, what's happening?
Well, the whole global economy. Well, first of all, economy and schmonomy, first of all, I'm sure this is a very boring topic for a lot of people, but there has been a complete change in sentiment for sure. Last couple months, I'm sure you've seen the Dow, the NASDAQ, the S&P 500, like all indices are down 10 to 20%. Don't quote me on the exact numbers, but everything's pretty hard down. Tech stocks got hit pretty hard. Like PayPal is down 50% in 3 months. ARK Invest is down 50% in the last year. Facebook is down like 40% in the last 3 months. Like stocks that are not really necessarily supposed to be a risk on stock, like PayPal, and people argue that Facebook is actually a safe play, and it's down hard. So everything's being priced in right now. So the Fed, which is the Federal Reserve, which is not part of the federal government, but our private central bank in the United States and other central banks across Europe and all over the world, are going to have to start raising interest rates. And the reason is because inflation is going out of control. And the only way to tame inflation is to raise interest rates to kind of tame the demand for things, goods, services. But yeah, the Fed is in a really, really tight pickle right now, because if they raise too fast, then unemployment will increase. So the goal of the Fed really only has two obligations, or supposedly they say they only have two like key like things that they have to maintain, is that low inflation rates and high employment. So yeah, they're in a really tight pickle. Supposedly March 16th is the next Fed meeting, or not supposedly, that is the next Fed meeting. And they're going to announce theoretically the first rate hike of 0.25%. And JP Morgan Chase wrote an article, or went on the air, saying that basically they expect 9 rate hikes either this year or over the next 2 years of 0.25%, or they call it basis points, right? 25 basis points. Now, what's interesting, and why I feel and many others feel that we are probably going to enter into a recession and there's more hard times ahead, is the last time we had super high inflation was in the 80s, the early 80s, late 70s, early 80s. Inflation went through the roof. It went up to like 15 or almost 20%. And what did they do to tame that, to bring that inflation down and tame it? They raised interest rates to 20%. So I actually met some people that got a mortgage in like 1981, 1982. Their mortgage interest rate, and it's not directly correlated, just to be clear. The Federal Reserve interest rates are not mortgage rates, but they're closely kind of connected. When they're not directly correlated. Mortgage rates were 20% or 18%. Like the people that I met, like today they're 3. I think they just went up to 4, which is like historically very low.
Chaos, man.
So the point I'm trying to make is, if you see inflation right now, they're claiming it's 7.5%, and they go off in an index called the CPI, right? Consumer Price Index. And the Consumer Price Index has modified and changed over the years. A couple decades ago, it used to include a lot of things like energy costs, like I think housing costs, like food costs, like, things that everybody needs to like pay for to live and survive. They no longer really include those things. And so they're just kind of going off other metrics and things like that. So they say it's 7.5%. We all know it's way more than that. It's probably closer to like 12, 15%. In order to tame that, they would need to raise interest rates to, let's just say it's 7.5%, as they're saying. They would need to raise it to 7.5%. Now, a quarter or 25 basis points raise 9 times. I mean, you do the math. It's not even 3%, right? It's 2.25%. I think we're at about 0.25% now. So let's just say 2.5%. So if inflation is still 7.5 or more, basically, if you get a 6% raise and inflation is over 6%, you lost money. You didn't get a raise. Your purchasing power is still lower than the rate of inflation. So yeah, it's a really crazy time. Raising interest rates too fast will also force a recession. So the Fed is actually in probably the most challenging time they've ever been in. We're coming out of this pandemic. We're trying to get back to our normal lives. We're trying not to destroy like our ability to buy things, but at the same time, they got to raise rates. So, yeah, crazy times.
It's absolute insanity, and I think you touched on it there. The Fed meaning so much. and having so much influence in the well-being of economic stability. Um, that in and of itself could be a multi-hour long topic.
Yeah, and
And
I'm not the best person to
yeah,
talk about it or the expert in the room, but I've probably listened to more than I need to about it. And but the key takeaway is their main goal and their purpose is maximize employment and keep inflation tamed at about, or locked in at about like 2 to 3%. So,
okay.
but
Hmm.
when you print $7 trillion in 2 years, which is half of the entire money supply,
Yeah.
no matter what the mainstream media will tell you, that will cause inflation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? It's it's going to happen. Oh man. All right, let's switch up topics now, man, to something that I think is a little lighter for the crowd here, and that's going to be the
Super
motherfucking
Bowl.
Super Bowl halftime show. All right, I will speak for myself individually, but I also happen to know how my homie Flex feels. That was the dopest halftime show, probably of our lifetimes. It was next level, hip hop for life. The absolute kings, royalty of the West Coast, Dre, Snoop. I would have liked to see Cube out there too. That would have been cool.
Yeah,
But hey,
Cube was missing.
yeah, Cube was missing. Cube was missing. But hey, man, Mary J, 50, Eminem. I
Kendrick.
mean, Kendrick, dude, like, and it's just you can't beat that, man. It was really, really, and just well executed by all of those artists individually. The performances were on point. I know you don't get a lot of time in a halftime show. You got to like really make the most of every single second that you get. And I felt like they did it, man. They did the damn thing, bro. So that's just my 2 cents, man. I felt
No,
like they did
100%.
it.
Like the only
Yeah.
negative comments I heard about it was like, "Oh, these guys are old and blah blah blah," and it's it's for the older generation. It's like,
Yeah.
man, are we really that old? Like, I know I just turned 40. I guess I'm that old.
Right,
Like,
dude.
I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know what our demographic is or our average age is that rewatches the show or watches joins us live.
That
But
gets
no,
me salty too, man. It's like, come on, man. No, regardless, the music is timeless, man. That
no, 100%.
those tracks are timeless, dude. Like that.
And I
Well,
heard
man, I
something.
don't know, man. Like,
I heard
it's
something
just,
really interesting on NPR the other day. It was very kind of like left-leaning political analysis of this halftime show or just the state of hip hop in general. But I thought it was interesting, the correlation that this gentleman, I don't know who he was or what his name was. I just jumped into the NPR show in the middle of it. Basically, he was talking about how hip hop in the early 90s was like all bad. It was super political. You remember like Ice-T was rapping about cop killer and like gangster rap
yeah,
and like the whole, NWA movement, Tupac, Biggie, like all this stuff, right? It was super negative and it was like politicized and like politicians were speaking out against hip hop and trying to like shut it down to a certain degree. And then if you look at like kind of the track record for, Dre has been associated with like um, domestic violence. I'll put it that way. Like
mm,
Snoop doesn't necessarily have the cleanest track record either. Like,
mm,
but they've been able to transform. The point the guy was trying to make is they've been able to transform their careers. They've been able to clean themselves up. They've
mhm.
matured. They've addressed, I believe, most of these issues. And yeah, they're still on top of their game at the age of 45, 46, 48, 50.
Right?
Um,
Yeah,
and now they're doing the Super Bowl show. So to me, it was pretty cool to see. It was
yeah.
absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, man. It's like, dude, we all do dumb shit. We all do dumb stuff. Nobody's perfect. We all make big mistakes. And these guys have lived the bulk of their lives from them when they were kids, in the public spotlight, which is tough to do. It's just having never been in that situation. I can honestly speak to the fact that I really appreciate having never been in that situation because I couldn't imagine what it'd be
Yeah.
like to have somebody watching in my every move, man. That sounds absolutely horrendous. Um
Yeah. And the
and
fact that it was
terrifying.
the first hip
Yeah.
hop, full hip hop. We were talking about this before the show, right? Like there was Beyonce and then Jay-Z came on for a minute. And there could have been maybe a few other kind of cameo situations, but This was the first official hip hop,
Yeah,
only
like
hip hop.
all hip hop. Yeah, all
Yeah,
hip hop
halftime.
halftime show, which is still crazy to think about. It's 2022 and it took till 2022 to 2022, 22 to 2022
And
till
hip
we
hop's
had the
been around
first
for, I would go as far to say like the late, maybe not late
80s.
70s, but like
I mean, yeah, I mean, it started
early
a long, you know what
80s.
I'm saying? Like, dude, and it had the
Depends how
heyday
far
was
back you want to go, but yeah.
in the
Yeah.
90s, but you're right. In the 90s, you're right. There was just a lot of this animosity between like the establishment and the genre of art because it allowed black men to be able to speak in ways that historically, society was not exposed to. And
Yep. And
that
then
really got under the skin of, the music industry as the establishment. And fuck, sorry, not to swear. Forget all that, man. Like they changed the game, and they like it's just it speaks to the power of the music. I think that it's um it may have taken longer than another genre of music, you know, that may have looked different. The originators of other types of music that look different may have gotten more to the main stage faster, but like the fact of the matter is they got here. And they were the halftime show this year at the Super Bowl, and they destroyed it. And it was, I think, absolute, just like once in a lifetime type performance.
I don't think I ever told you the story, but like the one thought that kept popping into my mind, and I hadn't thought about this in pretty much 20 years. I'm originally from France, for those of you that don't know, and I used to go back every year during the summer in my teens, and because my cousins were there, my grandmother, when she was alive, was there. So it was kind of like the yearly pilgrimage back to France for like a couple weeks, and I'll never forget this conversation. So I was in my early 20s. I had just become like a hip hop, or I just started learning how to DJ, and I was obsessed with hip hop since middle school. So I knew that like that was going to be the genre. So anyway, I'm this like young, early 20s, obsessed hip hop white French kid who's having dinner, or I'm sorry, a lunch in this like tiny little village with my mom and dad, with my folks. And they had invited some friends of theirs that were these, I wouldn't call them elderly at the time, but they were probably in their 50s, like a couple that I had never met. And I can't even recall the association of these people with my folks. And we had a couple drinks, as we always do in France, or, whatever, some wine. And they asked me what I did and like as a hobby or whatever. And I said, well, I started DJing, and, oh, cool. What kind of music? Like hip hop. Like, oh, hip hop. So for context, this is probably the year 2001, 2002, 2003, something like that, like early 2000s. And like, isn't that a fad? And I lost it. Like I embarrassed my parent. Like I was like, it's absolutely not a fad. Like, what are you talking about? Like how ridiculous could you possibly be? Like this music's been around now for at least 25, 30 years, right? Since like or at least 20 years, right? Since the early 80s. I was like just perplexed.
So mad. Dude.
Yeah. And here we are 22 years after that lunch, and we got a hip hop Super Bowl. So yeah, that was
that's
pretty
dope,
cool.
Dude.
Yeah.
That's man.
I gotta remind next time I talk to my folks, I gotta remind them of that. Like, remember when we had that dinner with those people that I don't remember who they were? And they said that hip hop was a fad. Do you remember that? Remember when I embarrassed you? When I got really mad and was inappropriate at the table?
Yeah. Hip hop's still around, man. We may not be, I don't know, man. I may not be completely tuned into what's going on right now, man. Like some of this stuff, this new stuff is like
new stuff. Before I lose my mind on the new stuff, perfect segue, Tone. Let's talk about Ye. Like what's going on with Ye right now?
Oh my goodness, bro.
Tell me what's going on, because you were trying to tell me earlier, and I have no idea what's happening.
Man, I can't sit here and say like I'm some, I don't know, man. Like I don't even know what to say. Like I'm not like in the know. All right, I'm not in the know. All I know is what I've been seeing on the peripheries, the peripherals.
All I know is he's trying to like pawn off
He
a $200
he's
MP3 player, which
it
no
seems
one
like
wants for his new Donda album. Like,
yeah, and it seems like he's just having a very public breakup with a very other obviously another big famous celebrity, in
we'll
uh
just call her
Kim
Kim.
Kim Kardashian. And the whole thing makes me sick that I know anything about this at all. But he
It is
is a
shocking, Tony.
legendary hip hop producer. I mean, he's a legendary hip hop producer.
And
And
he was a
I
really good
love
rapper like 20 years ago, in my opinion.
yeah,
I
like
thought
he had some really original bars, like some and the kid was hungry and I
Jay-Z put
think
him on and for a reason. Like, even though I know
I
you don't like
just
Jay-Z, I'm
I'm
not saying
just
that.
nah, and all it's all love. Everybody, I respect everybody. I respect you. You made your name and you make money and you do what you do. That's cool, but not everybody's my what you call my my piece of cake or whatever. I don't know how do they say that. Not everybody's my you know
Cup of tea.
like cup of tea. Thank you, man. Thank you. I couldn't find it. I could not find it. I was looking
You got
all over the
bars of
place,
fire
man.
earlier, but you couldn't find cup
Yeah,
of
I
tea. It's
couldn't
okay.
find cup of tea,
It's
bro. I
okay.
was like Alice in the damn rabbit hole, man. There was a cup of tea was floating in front of me, and I just couldn't grab it, bro. I couldn't see it. Anyway, that brings me back to I don't know, man. Like this is just not healthy. It's not. It can't be good.
But to talk about the beef between like his ex and the new dude
Yeah, Pete
and
Davidson, who's a guy
yeah.
on SNL. Like this guy is a basic comedian, SNL.
How is Pete Davidson dating Kim Kardashian again? Like, how did
He's
that happen?
he ended up dating Kim Kardashian. He's been dating everybody, dude. Pete Davidson's been like the it dude, and somehow, like he was with Ariana Grande. He was with fucking. He's been with everybody, dude. He's
Isn't
just
he a
I don't know.
very unattractive? I mean,
He's just a
okay.
weird
I don't.
looking.
Sorry.
uh,
I
y- you
I
know,
don't want to go down
he's
that,
just
that
he's
road.
a vibe, bro. He's a vibe, and
He's just
that's
a
what the
vibe
girl.
guy.
At the end of the day, man, that's what the girls want, man. The girls want a vibe, and they vibe with this funny dude, funny looking dude, who happens to be around when you break up from Kanye, and like you know what I mean. Like this is the guy. I don't know. It's Pete Davidson. He's there
I literally
for
Googled, right, and
like he was
the
there
first
when
like 5 stories was like Kim Kardashian, Kanye West divorce live. Fans wait. Like chaos goes after Kanye goes after SNL. Pete Davidson show. Like when I Google Pete Davidson's name, those are the first results. It's not
it's
like
insane.
Pete
I can't. Yeah,
Davidson
you
is
just put
a
like
comedian or whatever.
he's calling him Skeet Davidson. He's like that's what I was telling you like before the show, man. Like he took Cuddy off the album because Cuddy's homies with Pete Davidson, and Cuddy called Kanye a dinosaur. He's like, I didn't want to be on the album anyway. Fuck you. Like
Kim
I don't know, man. I think
Kardashian's
some of this is like
entire
performance art just for to pump the album, man.
100%.
But some of it's like just like so crazy. It's like, dude, why would you bring? It just seems like, come on, man. Like, are you this hard up for sales that you're gonna bring in your family and to pump sales?
I mean, he
I
lost
don't.
$1 billion enterprise, right? So he needs the money. I think
That's a good point.
he's
I
gonna have to
mean,
wait till 2024 until his boy Trump
yeah.
gets back in power, and then. But
I just like I know him. This will never happen. But if it did, and if somehow Kanye, you heard any of this, just erase everything we've said. You don't have to listen to anything else. Just hear this. Stop it with the boots, man. Just stop it with the boots. Like the boots are not cool, man. I would rather you be barefoot or in sandals. Just like
it's
Crocs.
symbolic, man. You just don't understand it. You just don't understand it,
The
Tone.
boots, no, dude. Just nobody in boots is doing anything good, man. Unless you're on the moon and you need the boots, or you're on the mountain skiing, and these boots aren't good, man. I don't know. And this is my own personal thing. Sorry,
All right,
not to be
enough
anti-boot. I'm done with that. We'll move
enough
on.
of yay, enough of yay.
Enough of yay, please.
El Salvador, Diamond Hands Bukele.
I
Want to talk
mean,
about
we
that
could
for a
go
minute?
there. We could go there a little bit. We could talk about this. For the folks that don't know, Bukele is I don't know if they call it down there, but he's the president, I think, of El Salvador.
Yeah, and on Twitter, on his
Whatever.
Twitter profile, he calls himself
He
the CEO of El
calls
Salvador,
him
which,
CEO of El Salvador,
if you
which
don't know, is a meme and kind of an inside joke thing in the Bitcoin community. Don't have to get into that too much, but
He's
yeah,
dope.
he's a
He's looking
comedian.
out for the people. I think he's you know, just a very enterprising young native El Salvadorian um, who came from nothing and is now running his country the way that I think any one of us would do it when our ultimate bottom line is to take care of our people. I honestly believe that. That's how he runs shit. Not to say that, I'm not going to glorify any politician, because a politician at the end of the day is a politician, but I think that he's doing things with that in mind, to take care of his people, his country, and their ultimate well-being in the long term. And he's
Yeah,
fun. He's fun to follow. He's a fun Twitter follow. You know what I mean? He's or
he
his
is a
PR team. They're on top of shit.
he is a conservative. He is a right wing. Well, at least he's labeled as a right wing populist. I'm just checking out the Wikipedia just to make sure we're not going too ham on certain things. I don't think he came from nothing, and he's obviously not, Salvadorian.
No, that's all wrong.
That's all wrong.
So everything I said was wrong.
No, I'm not saying that everything you said was wrong, but yeah, he's not a native of. I don't know if he was born here, but for sure his ethnicity is not Salvadorian.
Mm.
I forget what his ethnicity is, but it's Middle Eastern. Okay, paternal grandparents were Palestinian Christians from Jerusalem and Bethlehem, while his maternal grandmother was Catholic. Grandfather was Greek Orthodox. Father later converted to Islam. Bukele studied law at the Central American University, but later ended his studies and founded his first company at 18. Bukele owned Yamaha Motors El Salvador, a company that sells and distributes Yamaha products. Anyway, not to dig too far into this, he was the mayor of San Salvador. He's been in El Salvador for a long time. It was the mayor of San Salvador, right? The capital, I believe.
Okay, so he has been a local for a while.
Yeah, I mean, he's been there for a long time. Yeah, he has been accused of governing in an authoritarian manner.
Mm-hmm.
So he did call himself the dictator of El Salvador on Twitter as well. So now, currently, it's CEO of El Salvador, but previously it was dictator. Again, kind of poking fun at himself and poking fun at certain things. But yeah, I don't know enough about him to be like he's the greatest thing since sliced bread. It appears that on paper, El Salvador's GDP is going through the roof, right? Like in 2021, I think it was like 134%. Don't quote me on that number. It was like a ridiculous amount of growth that's happening there that can only hopefully enhance the lives of the people of El Salvador. And I genuinely feel that
properly.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, fairly, yeah.
Yeah, it's a really interesting situation. And obviously, for those of you that don't know, which would be almost impossible at this point, he did allow the legalization, or they passed a bill that legalized Bitcoin as legal tender alongside the US dollar, because they use the US dollar there as their main currency to, of course, buy oil, because it's only traded in dollars.
And he was the first to sanction harnessing volcanic energy for Bitcoin mining, correct?
Yes, geothermal energy. Yeah, so they have 3 main volcanoes in El Salvador, or at least 3. And yeah, there's a geothermal plant that's been already there, leveraging the volcanic geothermal energy, and they have built a Bitcoin mine on site and are using volcano power to mine Bitcoin, which is, I think, amazing. And on top of that, I don't know if it's official yet or not, but they're they're either going to create, or they've created a Bitcoin bond. So people can invest or put money, I think, in the form of Bitcoin in this Bitcoin bond, and then over the course of 6 or 7 years, look into it. Just Google Bitcoin bond El Salvador or whatever. And yeah, the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, is not happy about any of this. they don't want them to do any of this. And who is it? Moody's downgraded the El Salvador status to like junk.
No, boo.
Yeah, and we all remember what Moody's did in the 2008 financial crisis. They gave AAA ratings to all of the junk bonds that we were offloading to the Europeans, which ultimately crashed our economy and their economy and put us into a global financial crisis. So I take Moody's ratings with a grain of salt.
Thank you, Flex, on that. See, and everybody that's listening, see, this is why you listen closely and you listen to our show, because we have a good time, and I will go off on rants that have no factual basis in reality, and Alex will bring us back to reality, just like, you know, a professor that's bringing back in the hot air balloon that has gotten away.
Sometimes.
But it keeps us honest here, and you drop knowledge like the, you know what I mean, like the 2008 financial crisis that was in large part due to
corruption.
You know, corruption. Just like,
i.e., selling junk mortgages to pension funds, to
borrowers,
European banks.
Yeah, had no way
of paying. Yeah,
covering what they were signing up for.
We were basically giving loans to millions of people that, on paper, had absolutely no way to be able to pay back their mortgages. They were all getting ARMs, which are adjusted rate mortgages. And so the first 4 or 5 years of your ARM is a super low, nice, pretty looking interest rate. So you're like, yeah, I can totally afford this payment. And then they never read the fine print, and the banks didn't tell them to read the fine print, which was like an ARM 5 or an ARM 7. What does that mean? After 5 years, your interest rate adjusts or goes up. After 7 years, if it's an ARM 7, it goes up. So your mortgage payment goes up. And by up, I mean a lot. So nowadays, I just purchased a home last year. I went through the whole mortgage process. It's very straightforward. Just get a 30-year fix so you don't have to worry about interest rates jumping up and down. If you have some intuition, or if you think the rates are going to go lower in 5 or 7 years, that's on you. But I wouldn't guarantee that, at least for this next decade. So do your homework. But yeah, banks legally now have to make sure that you understand what you're doing. And they have to look at your income also, which they weren't doing back in 2004, 5, 6, 7. Strippers had 5 condominiums or multiple apartments in Florida, and like they were just getting mortgage after mortgage after mortgage, and they could afford it. But what they didn't understand was that they all had ARMs, adjusted rate mortgages, and then when the rates went up, they lost all their homes. They had to foreclose on all of them. So if you're going to give a loan to a stripper, make sure that she reads the terms. That's all it is. He or she. Sorry, we're inclusive here.
Yes, that's right. And that's in all walks of life. It doesn't matter what country you come from or where you are in the world. Okay. Wherever you find yourself, there are strippers, and those strippers. Okay.
I only use that reference because of the movie, The Big Short. And if you haven't seen that movie, man, I've seen it like 10 times. It's the greatest movie ever.
The point, the main takeaway here is just make sure that your borrowers have the proper collateral. Okay.
Yes.
Do not send out the loan agreement without verifying the proper collateral. All right, let's jump along here. We're going to move to the next thing here, dude. This is pretty crazy, but you know, we have to touch on it, man. And it is this. It is Ukraine. Okay. And I'm going to send a ticker across the bottom here that you just, you know, we got to just remember that we have to be kind to our neighbors. Okay. And what it seems like is happening right now is that Russia is playing games with their neighbors. Or that's the narrative that we're being sold very heavily by the Western media. And I'm open for a discussion on what is and isn't truth. I know, Alex, you've been following this very closely and understand that, There are ulterior motives on both sides, of course, just like with any conflict. But really, with this Ukraine thing, like I've read stuff that's like the Ukrainian people are kind of like, why are we getting spun up into this panic? It doesn't seem like something's going to happen. But the West is telling us that's going to happen. So look out any day. I mean, can you shed some light on this?
Oh yeah. I will preface everything I say with I'm not pro-Russian, I'm not pro-US, I'm pro-peace, I'm pro in this matter Ukraine. I'm pro what the Ukrainian people want for themselves. Where to begin? I think I came up with an example. I was speaking about this with my mother-in-law, and she knew nothing of the subject, and it was like it's very difficult for her to put it into context. And so I prefaced it, or the example I gave her was this: imagine that Russia is the U.S. And again, I'm not pro-Russia in this statement, but just let's play devil's advocate for a minute. And South America, the continent of South America, and all of the countries within that continent form an alliance, and we'll call it SATO instead of NATO. We'll call it SATO. Brazil, Paraguay, Chile, Argentina, Colombia, Venezuela, etc. They all join this pact, and they go, "Yeah, cool. We're all allies, and like we're going to defend each other no matter what, right?" And then the U.S. goes, "Hey, what are y'all doing over there? Like, why do you need to form this pact, right?" And then, Sato goes, "Don't worry about it, guys. Don't worry about it, Americans. Like, you don't have anything to worry about. We promise, after negotiating with America, not to expand our Sato too far, right? Officially, but not officially." And then, 5 years goes by and they start gobbling up some of the Central American countries. Another 5 years goes by, 10 years goes by, they gobble up all of Central America. So now Sato is not just South America, it's Central America and South America. Now America's like, yo, this isn't cool. Like, what are you guys doing, right? And then all of a sudden, there's this major push to get Mexico to be part of SATO. And America's now freaking out. What does America do? They put all their troops, or a lot of their troops, on the border because they're anticipating like an incursion or an invasion or some kind of front, right? So that is the story that Russia for a long time has been saying. They're like, this expansion of NATO is absolutely unacceptable. Ukraine can never be a part of NATO. And if it does become a part of NATO, we feel extremely threatened, right? So, yeah, that's kind of like the Russian argument. And the Americans are saying, well, Russia's
So
got
the
all their
Russians
troops on the
said they
border.
feel extremely threatened if Ukraine were to be admitted into NATO.
Well, look at a map of NATO. So like just Google like NATO map or whatever, and you can see that we are already on I forget how many actual miles of border, but like we're already like up on their border. And so if Ukraine becomes a part of NATO, then we would have like a majority of the NATO entity up on the majority of Russia's border. And what have we been doing for the last like 20 years is like making allies with, or putting our missile defense systems in Poland, putting missile defense systems in Ukraine, Romania. We have U.S. troops and Romanian troops in the border of Romania and Ukraine right now, or Moldova. This is not a situation where Russia feels comfortable. Now, is Russia the one trying to invade Ukraine? There's a long history of that as well, right? Russia sees Ukraine as part of like the old Mother Russia, essentially. And then to make the matters even more complicated, there are separatists within eastern Ukraine, and there's entire territories. It's not just one. I believe there's at least two main territories that are separatist territories where they're Ukrainian, they're Russian, but they're like Russian, militants essentially. So
we got a map here. just for everybody that's
Mhm.
watching.
So Belarus is like kind of the last one, but Belarus is straight up homies with Russia. I don't think they're going to be NATO, and there's like severely like strict criteria to be part of NATO, but
Yeah.
America,
So like,
more than any of the other European countries, has been pushing Ukraine to be a part of NATO for a very long time.
okay. Dude, Ukraine's bigger than I would have thought when looking at this map. I mean, it's not huge, but it's definitely not small.
Yeah. And I
That's
Googled why Ireland, Switzerland, and Austria are not part of NATO, because they are, what do you call it? They call themselves neutral countries. They are neutral. They do not want to have anything to do with any wars, or they don't want to pick any sides. They don't want to work with the U.S. They don't want to work with France, with Germany. They're just like, we're chilling, right? So that's why you see Ireland. They're on the top left, not part of NATO, Switzerland, and Austria. And then the countries below Austria, I think Serbia, Kosovo, those countries don't meet the criteria because their governments are too corrupt, or there's just too much chaos going on. So they actually don't meet the criteria to be of being a stable enough country and stable enough democracy. And there's a whole bunch of other like financial stuff as well. But yeah.
So here we are. Here we got the. What do we got here? Another NATO map. Well, some pretty good stuff here. Oh boy.
So again, I'm not pro-Russian. I like to play devil's advocate. I like to listen to both sides. I like to meet somewhere in the middle. I think the truth lies somewhere in the middle. I don't think Russia's like not trying to invade Ukraine. I also don't think America doesn't want to make sure that they have control over. So it's like 80% of Europe's gas comes from Russia. How do you think they bring in the gas? I'm talking like mainly natural gas, right? Like the gas to turn on your stove. It comes in through Ukraine. So whoever controls Ukraine can control the flow of energy into Europe.
Okay.
Yeah, that's really what this is all about. Like all this politics aside, this is about energy control, resource
That's
control.
what we're talking about, bro. See, that's what we get to on this show.
Sorry it took me so long to get there.
It's just root cause analysis, man. That's like honestly what it is. It's like what we do in life. You got to get to the root cause of things, and you can't continuously. It's just like, and I don't want to go too far down a rabbit hole here, but like with this whole pandemic, man, like there's just like this kind of, I've noticed in certain circles, like this cavalier kind of wishy-washy. Well, we don't really need to figure out like exactly where it came from or why it did what it did. We just have to figure out how we can manage it. But that doesn't sit right with me. Like I the way that I approach, conflict and problems in my life is like you've got to trace things back to the root. Like, where did this begin? Where's the very, very, very first inkling of origination of this problem, of this issue? But I know that's wishful thinking. It's idealistic in a way that you can always get to the absolute, you know what I mean? Like,
I mean, in the
root
US,
of a problem, but still, man, like, dude.
In the US, there are extremely complicated internal issues, like racism is one of them.
Yes.
But
I don't think that's just US. I think that's global. I think that's everywhere.
Sure.
It's
The US just makes the biggest.
Yeah.
Has the biggest,
it's like
I think,
a global thing
with
just with the species. It's like there's outsiders and there's insiders. Any culture, any tribe, any societal strata, that's really how it all breaks down. There's people that are like you trust, and you call those insiders, and then there's outsiders. And I think racism exists within that. Like it's a very extreme.
But geopolitically, like the whole, like Europe is just really complicated. Russia's really like all the Middle East is very like all of these countries have extremely complex histories. We cannot unpack it in 5 more minutes. It's impossible.
Yeah, they go thousands of years back.
In certain areas,
yeah. It's centuries old, beef, so to speak. But wow, that's some heavy stuff, man. And I'm hoping that it doesn't lead to some international conflict, domino effect thing. but it really does seem like it has the vibes of like being some sort of kind of lightning rod, kind of firecracker, fork in the road for the whole global, balance of war and peace. And it's pretty worrisome in that regard, man, because it's like it seems like things break a certain way one way or the other in this particular conflict. You know, there's going to be a domino effect that's like really, really not good.
No, I mean, if there's a conflict, I'm not concerned yet. I'm not too concerned about an actual full-on nuclear war. I don't think like nobody wants, like Putin's been very clear he doesn't want that, and I know the U.S. is like nobody wants a nuclear war, right? If there's a conflict that breaks out, it's going to be a proxy war in the Ukraine. Russia did annex Crimea in 2014 or 2015. I can't remember exactly which year, but it might just be Russia grabbing a couple more 100 kilometers or 100 miles of border,
Yeah.
If something happens though, like I worry about the folks there more than anyone else, but also worry about the folks here. Like gas prices are already through the roof, and if there's conflict there, it's going to send energy prices through the roof. Like you think $5.50, $6 a gallon is hard right now for most Americans? Wait till it's $10, $12 a gallon. And wait till you can no longer afford to pay your gas bill to heat your home, right? So
dude, it's going to be really, 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 really difficult.
Yeah. So nobody wants a war in Ukraine. No, like nobody wants that because it will spill over.
I honestly and not to put an abrupt end to this, but we do need to move on. I think to
let's go
because we have more, unfortunately, conflict to discuss, and we're going to move on to this one. This is the kind of the one that's I think top of mind for a lot of folks. Please jump in right now and give us your 3-minute burn down on what's been going on with our neighbors at the north, man, in Ottawa, and all this.
I'm gonna bump the music back on just real quick a little bit.
This is perfect. Yeah, dude. What's going on, man? What's going on with Canada and this protest of the truckers?
So Tones and I were talking about this before the show, and I think we have two very different views on this. Not different, but I think we have.
Yeah.
We lean two different on two different sides on this issue, and that's perfectly fine. So yeah, Canada, right? So the protest, the trucker convoy. At first I was like, okay, it's a little crazy, it's a little dramatic, but like the more you dig into it, you really have to understand why they're doing what they're doing, what the laws are currently in Canada, what the vaccination rate is generally across the board in Canada, what the infection rates are in Canada, and what is the overall risks to the people in Canada as it pertains to the pandemic. And the more I looked into it, the more it really just didn't make any sense for Canada to have such strict protocols that went against the will of media is calling it a minority. I'm not going to go on air here and say it's a majority, but I think there's an overwhelming percentage of people there that are just kind of fed up with this. So media is portraying a lot of these truckers as like white supremacists, racist. I don't know if violent can be used because for the most part, the protests have not been violent. The most violence has been as of today and yesterday when the police finally came and started arresting folks and trampling a few, unfortunately, on horse. I'm sure it was by accident, but it didn't seem like they had done anything to tend to that individual that was trampled or multiple individuals that were trampled. But anyway, back to the truckers and the people that side with the truckers. They're just fed up. Canada requires vaccinations for pretty much anything, like going to grocery stores, keeping your job. There's vaccine passport requirements. And so the argument of the conservative side of the Canadian government is essentially like, look, we're not against vaccinations. Like 80% of Canadians are vaccinated. 80% of these truckers are vaccinated. Our hospitals are not full. Omicron is dwindling down. Like we're coming back to some level of normalcy. Let's give the people like a little relief. Let's just give them a little break. Like let's tone down some of the mandates. And Justin Trudeau and the liberal left absolutely refuse to do anything whatsoever until what they say is the science allows them to do that. The scientists tell them that it's okay to do that. That's like, I've listened to these like debates. They're actually really fun to watch. Like, it's so much more refreshing to listen to than the debates in America. That's just a bunch of, I'm sorry, idiots yelling at each other and not doing anything. And then there, at least they're yelling at each other, but intellectually, like intelligently, like they're yelling at each other. It's apples and oranges compared to our gosh dang government. So I encourage anyone to watch and listen. It's actually pretty fun. But yeah, the conservatives are like, yo, we totally get it. Let's tone down the mandates. And the left is like, not until the science says so. They don't give any data. They're not providing like a graph saying when it's going to be okay.
Science. Yeah. What science?
What specific science? Yeah. They're just saying science. Okay, science. And then Justin Trudeau enacted the Emergencies Act, which allows them to seize all assets, freeze bank accounts, and seize digital assets such as cryptocurrencies. And there's been a lot of interesting stuff going on with that too.
This seems pretty totalitarian. Is that
it's kind of wild? It's kind of heavy.
It's pretty totalitarian.
No matter which side you're on, it's still really heavy.
It's pretty totalitarian for 2022, and that's a lot of T consonants.
We're talking about Canada here. We're not talking about.
It's crazy, right?
I don't know what's Canada. A good example, but
I mean, it's not
like if this happened in Germany, maybe would it be shocking? I don't know.
Costa Rica, maybe. I don't know. No,
I don't know.
they got no military down there. I think the Canadians have military, but still, like, just think of them as just just relaxed, chilling.
They have a military, yeah. They're actually our allies in Iraq for like most of the war.
Yeah,
they've lost lives in all of our shenanigans in the Middle East.
Canada, so. Right? Yeah.
They have a pretty elite force, actually.
Yeah. I got the police force, the Royal Mounted Canadian Royal Mounties, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Mounties. Mm-hmm. Ballers. Oh man. Well, I thank you for that breakdown. I think that it's something that, honestly, that for me, it's just another testament to how, I think community protest, community kind of unionized, just a collective mindset has power to make change, and at least at the very least draw attention. You hope that these types of things always end in a way that's amicable, peaceful, no violence, no damage, no one's hurt. But sometimes it's not always that pretty. And depending, I think it's directly correlated to the injustice that's being served in any particular situation. I think that you see, if people uprise, they're not going to uprise real nice and ask nicely if the oppression that they're experiencing is harsh, right? It's correlated. I think, and it makes sense. Like, what's going on in Canada right now is tough, and it correlates to what people have been going through. This is it's kind of a blockade of our species. Mentally, man, people are like kind of like, we've been stuck in this COVID thing for 2 years, and there's a whole spectrum. There are people who refuse to believe any of this is real at all, valid at all, will never wear a mask. You couldn't convince them, no matter what you did, that it wasn't a hoax. Even if they literally were sick and dying, and their last words were, "I thought this was a hoax." And we've seen that story.
We've seen people dying in hospitals saying that it is still a hoax, and they're dying of COVID.
Yeah. And there's a whole spectrum. You got people that know it's not a hoax, but they may be on a different, other end of the spectrum. They won't leave their house. They still Lysol every piece of equipment, every piece of anything that comes into their house. They refuse to interact with outside the world. I
have a neighbor that still has not been to a grocery store. Super nice people. We respect them with their choices. But yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
Their daughter hasn't been to school in over 2 years. Dude, daughter hasn't really played with a whole lot of people in over 2 years.
And there's people that have been to like the Super Bowl, and giant raves and big. I mean, it's
So not to dig on this too much and flip flop back to the Super Bowl, but I did find it interesting that all of the conservative and liberal, very liberal. I mean, you had the mayor of LA, right? You had all these celebrities, all of them.
yeah.
None of them are wearing masks.
No,
Not one.
no,
At
nobody, nobody. I don't know
And
if it's
their
an
excuse was when they were criticized by the far left liberal woke mob was, oh, we were holding our breaths when we were taking the selfies or whatever. Like, this is a joke, man. Like, this is embarrassing, bro. At this point,
it was a very frustrating way to describe the times that we're in that I heard the other day that really got under my skin. Because somebody was describing like this new rapper. I was reading a review about a new rapper.
You texted me this, yeah.
That did, and it was just like this artist review in a journalist publication about hip hop critique, and they frame this person as being a savant in this post-truth world. And that's how they describe the world that we're in right now, modern society as it exists, as we are experiencing right now with all this, whatever you want to call it, social media access and infinite information, work from home, detachment, complete isolation, while at the same time being more digitally connected than ever before. They described it as this post-truth world. Post-truth. Like post-truth world that we live in. And I'm like, that just, I can't even express to you how like repulsive that is to my brain. Like, even like post-truth world, what are we talking about? Like truth, but it is valid. It's like truth doesn't matter the way it used to anymore. It's like some commodity that's like been completely cut, like
it can
like
only
diluted.
It can only spiral a society or the entire world,
man,
into collapse, and then there will be a reset. But like, this is not a sustainable path.
It's not good.
It's not a sustainable path.
It's not good to have like genuine, earnest, all loving, compassionate people questioning where the valid sources of uncut truth are. How can that be? Like, how can we not know for sure where we go to get uncut truth? And a lot of us do. I mean, obviously, it's not like it's impossible. You got to have a good
I don't know anymore.
You got to have a good village, though. You got to have a good basis. I think you have to come from a strong village that understands that there are always going to be forces out there trying to do smoke and mirrors.
But I think I agree entirely with everything you're saying. But I think the only way, like, I used to think AP was like the source of truth, but I question some of their stuff only recently. There's just a few things that I'm just like,
It's just media in general, man. Media, you got to take media with a grain of salt. Even
the only thing I can do is look at all sides. The far left, the far right, the slightly left, the slightly right, and the center, and everything else in between, and then just formulate your own opinion. That's all you can really do. I don't think we're ever guaranteed of truth anymore.
No, the only other way to go get it is to go get it. You got to go get it. You got to become a journalist. You go into the cut. You got to go into the cut.
But not everybody can be a journalist.
Not everybody can be a journalist, and not everybody can go into the cutty cuts of like the central. You know what I mean? Like the actual like the eye of the hurricane of like the distruth or whatever they may feel completely against. Like, where is it coming from? Unless you're willing to go take that journalistic responsibility to go investigate yourself, you're dependent upon other media capabilities. You're dependent upon a just, non-biased, independent journalistic community to go out and find that information for you and share it to you. How do you find it?
All I know is Epstein didn't kill himself. That's all I know. Dude, and his boy that just hung himself or was found dead in a Paris prison or whatever. Burnell, I believe, was his name. Jean-Luc Burnell. Am I getting that right? Anyway, yeah.
This is science and fact. But you got to be kind to thy neighbors. You can't be hanging people. And he was not somebody. He's not a victim of suicide. He's not. He was not a.
We don't know. We don't have the details yet. But
Oh, we know,
he was
dude.
he was Epstein's pimp.
Epstein. He was Epstein's pimp.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was probably the worst,
Yeah.
which is unfathomable. He's probably even worse than Epstein if you consider he was the one orchestrating.
Was he worse than Ghislaine?
If he was the one that was
Ghislaine's homie,
solely responsible for finding, Ghislaine, she also located girls and women, and seduced them or whatever, financially or sexually or whatever, to join the
she
team.
was found guilty, right? That she's done. She's like guilty in prison, but like she's.
And you see Prince Andrew's thing, just closed it out.
Yeah.
Settled out of court for an undisclosed amount. There's rumors going around it was around $100 million.
Hundreds of millions of dollars. I
don't know about that, but who knows? Yeah, it was a lot. I'm sure.
If it was over 100,
so he's done. He's done, right? Epstein's dead. Ghislaine's pretty much done. I think there's still another step in her trial, but like we'll probably never hear about it again. And then homeboy in France died, and I think that's almost it. Like I don't think there's many others that are still alive, at least. I don't know. Anyway, I don't want to end on this note, but I do want to close it up. I think it's time to close it out, bro.
Hey, yeah. Go ahead. You was gonna close it out. You got something?
No. I didn't want to close it out on Epstein stuff.
Oh yeah, no.
I will say just real quick. I'll let you go. Bitcoin 39,050. When we started the show, Bitcoin was 39,600. Bitcoin is currently 38,800. Bitcoin is almost down 1,000 since we started the show. So hey, it's on sale, everyone.
Get in, dude. Get in, baby. Get in. DCA. Hey, before we sign off, I just wanted to give y'all like a breakdown of the lyrics I wrote. So I was gonna say them to y'all instead of rhyming them at you, just so you could read it and y'all could get refreshed on it. Because I have no shame in just sharing this. This is all work in progress.
Beautiful.
Nothing copyrighted. So let me just go back to these lyrics right here. Okay. I wrote these down on the 5th of February. Today's the 19th. So a couple weeks ago. Yeah, 2 weeks ago. And the theme I had was Jurassic Park. So this is what I wrote down. I wrote, hey, yo, the theme is Jurassic. So I'm going to flip this shit backwards. Okay. Reverse the sands of time, build another Sistine Chapel. But you won't see no stained glass, no Eve with the apple, because every inch is made of bone and ancient meteor shrapnel. So remnants of epics from eons and eons ago, embedded in Earth's crust root binary code. There are no other words. I've looked through every thesaurus. The fate of every living thing is a return to the forest. So best remember to forget. Go on and tune out the noise. Focus on your own awareness until you don't have the choice. My flow harasses, you slow molasses. I'm teaching classes and you failing maths. That's bad grammar, so good that it cashes. Flip that for sats, cause paper money burned to ashes. Bars on inflation got me snake charming Satan. So good with words, central banks sending agents. But SHA 256, bitch, hard money haven. Fuck a cease and desist, I keep my keys in a crypt. Banking cartels mad cause they can't touch the savings. Private keys encoded, hieroglyphics to a caveman. Chop a trip to safety for the sovereignty of mankind.
There's some straight platinum in there, man. I didn't even go gold. It was a straight platinum. Straight to platinum.
Hey, much love, bro.
That was beautiful.
I received that. Thank you, guys.
No, seriously, that was really good. For those of you that are still with us, and you heard him rap it in the beginning, and now you hear the breakdown. Thank you for listening, and for that individual, I believe on Twitch, who's been pretty much listening the entire time or watching. Thank you.
Love, man. Yes, much love. Good to have you. If you're a return viewer, good to have you back, and if you're a first-time viewer, good to have you, man. We love it. We're gonna hopefully be doing more of this more frequently, but no pressure, man. Me and Flex, we got very vivid, very luscious, very live and lit, normal personal lives. So it's not always easy to spare time to get together. So this has been a pleasure, man.
This
Thank you,
has
Flex.
been fantastic. I'm
Yeah,
so
thank
glad
you,
that we
man.
did this. I wish I could say we're back on every week, but it's gonna be organic. It's gonna happen when it happens. And yeah, this has been super fun, dude. Thank you. Thank you, Tone.
Absolutely. Thank you, bro. Thank you. Likewise, man. I echo that sentiment, and thank you to the viewer that we've had out there, and to anybody that views this in the future. Much love, peace, and again, man, just keep asking questions, keep learning. That's the best way to go through everything, man. We love
And with
you,
that,
and yeah,
I'd like to thank our sponsor today. It's been really hard to get this sponsor on board. Tone and I have been negotiating contracts and just trying to figure out how we're going to make this work. But I'd like to thank Bitcoin for being our sponsor today.
thank you, Bitcoin. Yes,
check out
thank you.
Bitcoin. Check out their entire staff. Check out their executive staff. They're doing some really good stuff.
Yes. Shout out to Big Daddy, CEO of Bitcoin, Barry Bitcoin, your son, Brian Bitcoin, and his son, Bo Bitcoin. We love you all, man.
Bo Bitcoin.
Oh, much love, man.
All right. We out. Thank you, everyone.
Man. Take care, y'all. Till next time, man. Peace.
Peace.